Hello, everybody. Welcome, librarians, and we're so excited to have you for our June edition of the Morning Book Buzz. We are super excited to celebrate a lot of, just excited to talk about tons of different books with you today, and we have tons of things to celebrate, along with Pride Month. It's also National Audiobook Month, along with some great nonfiction and literary standouts. So let's get the show on the road. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Sydney Czech, hailing from New York City at the moment. And what about you, Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly Coyle-Crivelli. I am here in New Jersey with my dog snoring really loudly in the background, so hopefully you can't hear her.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Elizabeth Fabian, and I am coming to you from Connecticut this morning.
Great. And as always, you can make sure you follow along if you want to tweet any remarks on Twitter. How you can use our hashtag #PRHMorningBuzz. And also, the format key below will just let you know what format editions are available for each title we talk about. So we'll have HC for hardcover, TR is trade paperback, LP large print, ebook is electronic book. The orange eGalley circle means that there is an eGalley available on Edelweiss or NetGalley, sometimes both. DN is audio download and CD is compact disc.
And we are so excited for the day when we can finally stand at a convention center with you and hand you a galley of a book we love and hand you our latest tote bag and just talk books. But until that time, we are really, really excited about ALA Annual Virtual this year. There are so many amazing speakers from PRH who will be there. There is Billie Jean King, there's Nicole Hannah-Jones from the 1619 Project, James McBride, and Isabel Wilkerson for CAST, and many, many more to come. If you haven't registered, there's still time, and keep an eye out for more announcements about more author programming that's coming. We'll also have great information, our fall book buzz, our fall bookshelf, and galley giveaways, and lots more. So we'll have that for you shortly. Thanks.
One of the things I miss the most actually about the real conventions is our wonderful Comic-Con, LibraryCon programming that we have with our graphic novel creators and authors. I always find those sessions to be so fascinating. And so you never know what you're going to get out of them. So we miss those, but we have a LibraryCon virtual for you this summer, like we used to do every year at ALA Annual. We have our virtual event coming up on July 15th. We don't want to miss talking about graphic novels and fandom titles with you this summer. So you can register for free. The URL is on the screen. Of course, you know that you get this all sent out in the wrap up, but it's going to be July 15th from 1 to 3 p.m. will be our live programming. There'll be some pre-recordings. We're going to have wonderful speakers, and we have a great day promised for you. So we hope you can join us for that. And we also hope you will spread the word to any of your librarian friends or patrons that miss going to Comic-Cons. Thanks.
And we're really, really excited. We have just published our volume number 22 of our book club brochure, which has the perfect books for all different kinds of readers, for you and your patrons. We've curated a list, as always, of fiction and nonfiction for your readers. You'll find titles like Lisa Genova's Remember, The Guncle, Crying in H Mart, Version 0, and many, many more. We have included discussion questions and sample discussion questions for each of the titles. And we have listings of adult books that are perfect for your teen groups, as well as Spanish language books for your Spanish speaking patrons. This book club brochure, as well as all of our brochures, are on our issue page, and you can visit the URLs in the screen or visit the URLs in the wrap up to find those book club brochures, along with our collection of over 230 beautifully designed book club kits for everything from thrillers to nonfiction, literary fiction, and more. So please do visit that issue page. And we're also really excited to enter the summer season with our summer reading sampler. You and your patrons can dip into excerpts and pieces of some of the hottest reads this summer, including Malibu Rising that just went on sale, Songs in Ursa Major, The Paper Palace, and a few more. You can download or view the sampler on our issue page, and you can feel free to share it with your friends, your patrons, in your e-newsletters, and your social platforms. It's a really, really great way to get a nice little peek of a book before you dive into the whole thing. There's some great reads in there.
We also want you to make sure to check out some of the amazing virtual events that are happening this month from authors of all genres. So if you're looking for more resources, you can always check out prh.com/books connect us live for more detailed schedule as well, but we just wanted to highlight a few happening this month. So the Stephen Rowley, there's the Jan Philip Senker, the Alexis Landau, the Fabian Nicienza. So definitely stay tuned for these. They're very exciting. And now we have books that celebrate Pride Month. So June is Pride Month, and below we'll have 6 titles that are super inspiring, and they all touch upon the LGBTQ+ experience in very different ways. They're all so inspirational and amazing, and I'm really excited to share with you. So first, we're going to start with The Engagement, America's Quarter-Century Struggle Over Gay Marriage. On June 26, 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that state bans on gay marriage were unconstitutional, making same-sex unions legal across the United States. But the road to that momentous decision was much longer than many know. In this definitive account, Sasha Issenberg vividly guides us through same-sex marriage's unexpected path from the unimaginable to the inevitable. This richly detailed narrative follows the coast-to-coast conflict through courtrooms and war rooms, bedrooms and boardrooms, to shed light on every aspect of a political and legal controversy that divided Americans like no other. Following a cast of characters that includes those who sought their own right to wed, those who fought to protect the traditional definition of marriage, and those who did change their minds about it, The Engagement is certain to become a seminal book on the modern culture wars. Fans of Samantha Irby, Shrill and Insecure will love Mia Mackenzie's latest novel, Sky Falling. When she was 26 and broke, Sky didn't think twice before selling her eggs and happily pocketing the cash. Now approaching 40, Sky still moves through life entirely and unrepentantly on her own terms, living out of a suitcase and avoiding all manner of serious relationships. Then a 12-year-old girl tracks Sky down during one of her brief visits to her hometown of Philadelphia and informs Sky that she's her egg. Sky's life is thrown into a sharp relief, and she decides that it might be time to actually try to have a meaningful relationship with another human being. Spoiler alert, it's not easy. With its endearingly prickly narrator and a cast of characters willing to both challenge her and catch her when she falls, this novel is a clever, moving portrait of a woman and the relationship she thought she could live without. Tori Peters, who's the author of Detransition Baby, notes that Mia Mackenzie is a writer who can move from heartbreak to laughter in a single paragraph, while brilliantly reinventing queer family and friendship and the ways in which we get stuck and unstuck along the way. When I could manage to put this book down, I looked up from its pages to a world charged with new potentials. Next, we have Rainbow Milk by debut author Paul Mendes, who has been given accolades by Marlon James, who says this novel is the kind of novel you never knew you were waiting for. In the 1950s, ex-boxer Norman Alonzo is a determined and humble Jamaican who has immigrated to Britain with his wife and children to secure a brighter future. Blighted with unexpected illness and racism, Norman and his family are resilient, but are all too aware that their family will need more than just hope to survive in their new country. At the turn of the millennium, Jesse seeks a fresh start in London, escaping a broken immediate family, a repressive religious community, and his depressed hometown in the industrial Black country. But once he arrives, he finds himself at a loss for a new center of gravity and turns to sex work, music, and art to create his own notions of love, masculinity, and spirituality. A wholly original novel, as tender as it is visceral, Rainbow Milk is a bold reckoning with race, class, sexuality, freedom, and religion across generations, time, and cultures. Next, we have Filthy Animals by Brendan Taylor, who was one of the breakout literary stars of 2020. Brendan Taylor has been hailed by Roxane Gay as a writer who wields his craft in absolutely unforgettable ways. And with Filthy Animals, he renews and expands on the promise made in his previous novel, Real Life, training his precise and unsentimental gaze on the tensions among friends and family, lovers, and others. In the series of linked stories set amongst young creatives in the American Midwest, Filthy Animals is a tender portrait of the fierce longing for intimacy, the lingering presence of pain, and the desire for love in a world that seems more often than not to withhold it. In Summer Fun by Jean Thornton, we need to break out your bell bottoms, throw up your peace signs, and dive back into the 60s in Jean Thornton's latest novel, Summer Fun. Meet Gayla, a young trans woman who works at the hostel in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. She's obsessed with the Get Happies, the quintessential 1960s Californian band, helmed by its resident genius, B. Why did the band stop making music? Why did they never release their rumored album, Summer Fun? Gayla writes letters to B that shed light not only on the Get Happies, but paint an extraordinary portrait of Gayla. The parallel narratives of Bee and Gala form a dialogue about creation of music, identity, self, culture, and counterculture. Summer Fun is an epic and magical work of trans literature that marks Thornton as one of our most exciting and original novelists. And lastly, we have Radiant Fugitives by Nawaz Ahmed. And fans of Fatima Farhia Mirza and Jeffrey Eugenides will love this dazzling operatic debut novel following 3 generations of a Muslim and Indian family confronted with the nation on the brink of change. Working as a consultant for Kamala Harris's Attorney General campaign in the Obama era, San Francisco, Seema has constructed a successful life for herself in the West, despite still struggling with her father's long ago decision to exile her from her family after she came out as lesbian. Now, 9 months pregnant and estranged from her Black father of unborn son, Seema seeks solace in the company of those she once thought lost to her. Her ailing mother, Nafessa, traveling alone to California from Chennai, and her devoutly religious sister, Tahira, a doctor living in Texas with her husband and children. Told from the point of view of Seema's child at the moment of his birth, and infused with the poetry of Wordsworth and Keats, and verses from the Quran, Radiant Fugitives is a moving tale of a family and country grappling with acceptance, forgiveness, and enduring love. Lots of great stuff here.
And speaking of Nawaz Ahmed, if you missed it last month, or a couple weeks ago, actually, we had our third, I believe, library lunch and learn program that was a preparation for planning for Pride Month. You can see the URL on our screen if you missed our wonderful program that featured Jason Bowman from the New York Public Library, who was sharing images from the New York Public Library archives of Stonewall. You'll see Lauren Huff, Brandon Taylor, lots of great information in this program. And if you missed it, you can check it out on our YouTube channel or by visiting our tiny URL on the screen. Okay, so now for me, I'm going to talk about Standout Nonfiction, which when we were in our little practice session before this started, we had about a 10 or 15-minute conversation about some great nonfiction titles that we are all looking to read. And I actually just downloaded one on my Libby app as we were practicing for this. So we know that we feel like we always bring you such strong fiction all the time, but we did want to remind you of some of our great standout nonfiction titles. We planned on, kind of tailoring this to be perfect for Father's Day, but we know because you're librarians, we plan further out. So these are titles that dads will love throughout the year, as well as other readers as well. But we're going to start with Alpha, which is Alpha, Eddie Gallagher and the War for the Soul of the Navy SEALs, winner of the Pulitzer Prize for National Reporting. This is an epic, page-turning account of the Navy SEALs of Alpha Platoon, whose deployment to Iraq led to startling accusations against their chief, Eddie Gallagher, and ignited a courtroom battle that would expose the dark underbelly of America's most elite special forces. By official accounts, the Navy SEALs of Alpha Platoon returned as heroes after their 2017 deployment to Mosul, following a vicious, bloody, and successful campaign to drive ISIS from the city. But within the platoon, a different war raged. Even as Alpha Chief Eddie Gallagher was being honored by the Navy for his leadership, several of his men were preparing to report him for war crimes, alleging that he stabbed a prisoner in cold blood and taken lethal sniper shots at unarmed civilians. In riveting detail, Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times correspondent David Phillips reveals the story of a group of special operators caught in a moral crucible. Should they uphold their oath and turn in their chief, or honor the SEALs' unwritten code of silence? It is also a larger story of how the SEAL teams drifted off course after 9/11 and of the pirate subculture they festered within their ranks. A secret brotherhood that, in a time of endless war, with few clear victories, made the act of killing itself the paramount goal. The investigation and trial following Alpha's deployment and Gallagher's ultimate acquittal on the most serious charges would pit SEAL against SEAL, set the Navy brass on a collision course with President Donald Trump, and turn Gallagher into a political litmus test in a hotly polarized America. This is a page-turning tale of battle, honor, and betrayal. Alpha is a remarkable expose of the fault lines fracturing a country that has been at war for a generation and counting. Next up is Power Play, Tesla, Elon Musk, and the Bet of the Century. This is for readers of The Four by Scott Galloway, The Airbnb Story by Lee Gallagher, and Super Pumped by Mike Isaac. It's also for people that liked movies like The Social Network and Ford versus Ferrari. This is the outrageous inside story of Elon Musk and Tesla's bid to build the world's greatest car. And it's also from an award-winning Wall Street Journal tech and auto reporter, Tim Higgins. Elon Musk is the most controversial titan, one of the most controversial titans of Silicon Valley. To some, he's a genius and a visionary. To others, he's a mercurial huckster. Billions of dollars have been gained and lost on his tweets. His personal exploits are the stuff of tabloids, but for all his outrageous talk of mind uploading and space travel, his most audacious vision is actually the one that is closest to the ground, the electric car. When Tesla was founded in the 2000s, electric cars were novelties, trotted out and thrown on the scrap heap by car makers for more than a century. But where most onlookers saw only failure, a small band of Silicon Valley engineers and entrepreneurs saw potential. The gas-guzzling car was in need of disruption. The world was ready for Car 2.0. So they pitted themselves against the biggest, fiercest business rivals in the world, setting out to make a car that was quicker, sexier, smoother, cleaner, and just more fascinating than the competition. But as the saying goes, to make a small fortune in cars, start with a big fortune. Tesla would undergo a truly hellish 15 years, beset by rivals, pressured by investors, hobbled by whistleblowers, buoyed by its loyal supporters. Musk himself would often prove to be Tesla's worst enemy. His antics more than once took the company he had initially funded largely with his own money to the brink of collapse. Was he an underdog, an antihero, a con man, or some combination of all three? Power Play is an exhilarating look at how a team of eccentrics and innovators beat the odds and changed the future. The next title is Taking Paris, the Epic Battle for the City of Lights. This is from Martin Dugard, the #1 New York Times bestselling co-author of the Bill O'Reilly's Killing series, with more than 12 million copies sold. This comes a thrilling account of the World War II Allied liberation of Paris from the grip of the Nazis. It's August 1944. After 2 months of combat and slaughter in the wake of D-Day, Hitler's troops have managed to avoid annihilation. Countless German soldiers retreat from Normandy, sweeping a path of violence back to Nazi-occupied Paris. There they expect to make a last stand, ready to destroy the ancient city rather than see it fall from Hitler's grasp. The Allies have a clear path toward Germany. General Eisenhower intends to bypass the city, fearing that overseeing its 4 million inhabitants will place an unnecessary burden on its supply lines. He knows that seizing Paris instead of pressing the immediate advantage toward the German heartland is a mistake. But Paris, a symbol of the liberty of the Allies hold so dear, is different. Over 120,000 Parisians have died since the German occupation began in 1940, and countless more tortured in the city's Gestapo prisons and sent to death camps. The longer the Nazis hold the city, the greater danger it is to its citizens. The exiled general Charles de Gaulle, headquartered in the Bar of London's hotel, convinces Eisenhower to put Paris before Berlin. Unless Paris is taken immediately, he tells Ike the city of light will be leveled. The race for Paris begins. This is James Patterson has a great review for this, and it says taking Paris does for Paris during World War II what the Splendid and the Vile did for London. It's action-packed. It reads like a thriller, but it's a nonfiction. And for people that love to read historical fiction about World War II, this is a great fiction companion for those titles. Next for me is Travels with George in Search of Washington and His Legacy. Does George Washington still matter? I have to say I have a historical crush on George Washington, so I love any book about George Washington. So this one sounds really fun and different. Best-selling author Nathaniel Philbrick argues for Washington's unique contribution to the forging of America by retracing his journey as a new president through 13 former colonies, which were now an unsure nation. Travels with George marks a new first-person voice for Philbrick, weaving history and personal reflection into a single narrative. When George Washington became the president in 1789, the United States of America was still a loose and quarrelsome confederation, and a tentative political experiment. Washington undertook a tour of the ex-colonies to talk to extraordinary citizens about his new government and to imbue in them the idea of being one thing, Americans. In the fall of 2018, Nathaniel Philbrick embarked on his own journey into what Washington called the infant wooded country, to see for himself what America had become in the 229 years. Writing in a thoughtful first-person voice about his own adventures with his wife Melissa and their dog Dora, Philbrick follows Washington's presidential excursions from Mount Vernon to the new Capitol in New York City, a month-long tour of Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island, a venture onto Long Island, and eventually across Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. The narrative moves smoothly between the 18th and 21st centuries as we see the country through both Washington's and Philbrick's eyes. Written at a moment when America's founding figures are under increasing scrutiny, Travels with George grapples bluntly and honestly with Washington's legacy as a man of the people, a reluctant president, and a plantation owner who held people in slavery. It's this writing in the first person, it's Philbrick's first time doing that in 25 years. It's powerful storytelling. It's funny, it's incisive, it's sweeping, and it's a propulsive narrative that brings Washington to life and into the modern day. Next from me is Masters of Scale, Surprising Truths from the World's Most Successful Entrepreneurs. This is for fans of the Masters of Scale podcast, which has over 30 million downloads. What can you learn from a Silicon Valley legend and a pantheon of iconic leaders? The key to scaling a successful business isn't talent, network, or strategy. It's an entrepreneurial mindset, a mindset that can be cultivated. Behind the scenes in Silicon Valley, Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, is a sought-after advisor to heads of companies and heads of state. On his podcast, Masters of Scale, he sits down with an all-star list of visionary founders and leaders to discuss the surprising strategies that have powered the most extraordinary successes of our times. Here, Hoffman teams up with the Masters of Scale executive producers to offer a rare window into the entrepreneurial mind. They share riveting stories and revealing insights from leaders of the world, some of the world's most iconic companies like Apple, Nike, Netflix, Spotify, Google, etc. And it's based on more than 100 interviews and with material never aired on the podcast. And it will offer a unique insider's guide filled with insights, wisdom, and strategies that will inspire you to reimagine how you do business. And last up for me is another book about the Navy SEALs, By Water Beneath the Walls, The Rise of the Navy SEALs by Ben Milligan. And I just have to do a plug that I'm friends with his family, and I'm really excited to talk about this book with you today and talk about a book that if my father were still alive, he would want immediately. I think it's 650 pages and it had to be cut down. So I think it would have been perfect. And Sydney was saying this is on her dad's Father's Day list as well. Readers who love all things SEAL and the work of authors like Dick Couch, Mark Owen, and Chris Kyle. And this is a gripping history chronicling the fits and starts of American special operations and the ultimate rise of the Navy SEALs from the unarmed frogmen to elite go-anywhere commandos as told by one of their own. How did the U.S. Navy, the branch of the U.S. military tasked with patrolling the oceans, ever manage to produce raiders trained to operate on land? And how, against all odds, did that unit become one of the world's most elite commando forces, routinely striking thousands of miles from the water into the battlefields of Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and even Central Africa? Behind the SEALs' improbable rise lies the most remarkable underdog story in American military history. And in these pages, former Navy SEAL Ben Milligan captures it as never before. Written with insight that can only come from combat veteran, it's an essential new history of the SEALs team, a crackling account of desperate last stands and unforgettable characters accomplishing the impossible, and a riveting epic of the dawn of the American Special Operations.
So I get to present this slide, which I think is amazing. I mean, look at this. This is, I guess, what we call an embarrassment of riches. We have amazing literary superstars on our fall list. And I'm sure Kelly would spend lots and lots of time talking about Immortals if we had more time on this presentation.
That's probably why I'm not presenting this slide, because I knew I would go too long.
But we're really, really excited about each and every one of these 6 books. And I'll kick off, like I said, with Immortals, the best-selling novel of A Gentleman in Moscow and Rules of Civility, and he's back with the book The Lincoln Highway. He returns with this stylish and propulsive novel set in 1950s America. In June 1954, 18-year-old Emmett Watson is driven home to Nebraska by a warden of the juvenile work farm where he has just served 15 months for involuntary manslaughter. His mother is long gone, his father's recently deceased, their family farm has been foreclosed upon by the bank. Emmett's intention is to pick up his 8-year-old brother Billy and head to California where they can start their lives anew. But when the warden drives away, Emmett discovers that 2 of his friends from the work farm have hidden themselves in the warden's trunk. Together, they've hatched an altogether different plan for Emmett's future, one that will take them on a fateful journey in the exact opposite direction, to the city of New York. This novel spans just 10 days and is told from multiple points of view, and it's filled with all of the elements that make it Toll's readers very happy about his works and everything they've come to love, from wit to humor, intrigue, sophisticated storytelling, fascinating characters and atmosphere. Toll's fans, literary readers, and book clubs will be thrilled at this latest edition. And next is Harlem Shuffle from the Pulitzer Prize-winning, National Book Award-winning, incomparable Colson Whitehead, a gloriously entertaining novel about heists, shakedowns, rip-offs set in Harlem in the 1960s. To his customers and neighbors on 125th Street, Ray Carney is an upstanding salesman of reasonably priced furniture, making a decent life for himself and his family. He and his wife Elizabeth are expecting their second child, and even if her parents on Strivers Row don't approve of him or their cramped apartment, it's still home. Few people know that he actually descends from a line of uptown hoods and crooks, and that his facade of normalcy has more than a few cracks that are getting bigger all the time. Then Ray's cousin Freddie falls in with the crew who plan to rob the Hotel Teresa, the Waldorf of Harlem, and he volunteers Ray's services as the fence. The heist doesn't go as planned, they rarely do, and now Ray has a new clientele, one made up of shady cops, vicious local gangsters, 2-bit pornographers, and other assorted Harlem lowlifes. Thus begins the internal tussle between Ray the Striver and Ray the Crook. And as Ray navigates this double life, he begins to see who actually pulls the strings in Harlem. Harlem Shuffle is a family saga masquerading as a crime novel, a hilarious morality play, a social novel about race and power, and ultimately a love letter to Harlem. And has a perfect ending. And Colson Whitehead said himself that he's so excited about this novel because he gets to be funny again. So that's great. Next is Lauren Groff and The Matrix, the newest novel from this best-selling author of the groundbreaking Fates and Furies. Cast out of the royal court by Eleanor of Aquitaine, deemed too coarse for marriage or courtly life, 17-year-old Marie de France is sent to England to be the new prioress at an impoverished abbey. Its nuns are on the brink of starvation and beset with disease. At first, she's taken aback by the severity of this new life. But then Marie finds focus and love with her new sisters. She steadily supplants her desire for family, her homeland, and the passions of her youth with something new, a devotion to these sisters, a conviction of her own divine visions. Marie, born the last in a long line of women warriors and crusaders, is determined to chart a bold new course for the woman she now leads and protects. But in a world that is shifting in frightening ways, will the sheer force of Marie's vision be enough? Matrix is a fevered read, propelled by, I'm not kidding, passion, lust, risk, and obsession, and is defiant and a timely exploration of the raw power of female creativity in a corrupted world. And now Ruth Ozeki is back with The Book of Form and Emptiness, a sweeping and imaginative novel and a terrific companion to A Tale for the Time Being. Here, she does for objects what her last novel did for time, drawing on parable, fable, and magical realism, but all rooted in reality. And this novel will speak to all of us bibliophiles. I mean, the main character and the main primary narrator of the novel is a book, and so much of it is set in the library. 1 year after the death of his beloved musician father, 13-year-old Benny O starts to hear voices. The voices belong to things in his house: a sneaker, a broken Christmas ornament, a wilted piece of lettuce. And although Benny doesn't understand what these things are saying, he can sense their emotional tone. Some are pleasant, like a gentle hum or a coo, but others are snide and angry and full of pain. And when his mother, Annabelle, develops a hoarding problem, the voices get more and more clamorous. At first, Benny tries to ignore them, but soon they follow him outside and onto the street and to school, and they drive him to seek refuge in the silence of the large public library, where objects are well behaved and know how to speak in whispers. There, Benny discovers a strange new world, and he meets his own book, a talking thing, who narrates his life and teaches him to listen to the things that truly matter. This is a blend of characters and riveting plot, and engagement with everything from jazz to climate change to our attachment to possessions. The Book of Form and Emptiness is bold, wise, playful, and heartbreaking. I have a feeling that many of you have heard me talk and go on and on and on about Elizabeth Strout before, about both the writer and the person, and suffice it to say, I'm a huge fan, so I couldn't be more thrilled to talk about her new novel coming this fall. In O. William, Elizabeth Strout explores the mysteries of marriage and the secrets we keep. As a former couple reckons with where they've come and what they've left behind. Lucy Barton is a writer. Her ex-husband, William, remains hard to read, though. William, she confesses, has always been a mystery to me. Another mystery is why the two have remained connected after all these years, but they just are. So Lucy is both surprised and not surprised when William asks her to join him on a trip to investigate a recently uncovered family secret. One of those secrets that rearrange everything we think we know about the people closest to us. And on every page, we learn more and more about the quiet forces that hold us together, even after we've grown apart. And at the heart of the story, of course, is the indomitable voice of Lily Barton, who offers profound and lasting reflections on the nature of existence. This is the way of life, Lucy says. The many things we do not know until it is too late. And while the many, many readers of My Name is Lucy Barton will certainly come to this book, this is a sequel that completely stands by itself. So your readers do not have to have read Lucy Barton to enjoy this wonderful new novel from Elizabeth Strout. And finally is Our Country Friends by Gary Steingart. I hesitate to say that this novel is set in March of 2020. Who would tackle that? Well, Gary Steingart would, and who else could succeed the way that he does? 8 friends, 1 country house, 4 romances, and 6 months in isolation. It's March 2020, calamity is unfolding. A group of friends and friends of friends gather in a country house to wait out the pandemic. There's a Russian-born novelist, his Russian-born psychiatrist wife, their precocious child obsessed with K-pop, a struggling Indian-American writer, a wildly successful Korean-American app developer, a global dandy, a young essayist, and a movie star called The Actor, who arrives and upsets the equilibrium of this chosen family. Over the next 6 months, new friendships and romances take hold, old betrayals emerge, and they force each character to reevaluate who they really love and what matters most. Like all of Gary Steingart's novels, this is a literary feat, and he's documented through fiction the emotional toll of our recent times. It's a story of love and friendship that reads like Chekhov in upstate New York. It's both elegiac and really, really funny, and I urge you to read it. And we were so lucky to have so many of the authors that we just talked about appear at the recent Library Journal Day of Dialogue. And in case you missed it, there is still a chance to view all of these amazing sessions. The Ruth Ozeki, Elizabeth Strout, Gary Steingart, they joined Atticus Lish on a panel called Literary Superstars for Us. Colson Whitehead spoke, and Amor Toll spoke, many, many others spoke about these amazing new books, about their inspiration for their characters. Gary Steingart is amazingly funny every time he talks. So if you haven't watched these sessions, I urge you to visit our blog. We have links to some of the sessions and links to log into the archive. And we'll certainly send around the URL in the wrap up in case you've missed these, because the sessions are incredible.
I think we all know what we're doing this fall, Elizabeth. We just booked up our entire fall.
I mean, it's amazing, right? I
That
mean,
was
who
an
can resist
embarrassment
any
of
of those?
riches
I
slide.
know.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of great stuff on one slide. We have a few more we're not done. Now we've got some thrillers for you that will thrill you to pieces. The first step is Hold Out. This is a novel from Jeffrey Kluger, whose name you might recognize from being the accomplished science writer behind 11 books, including Apollo 13. This one is now a novel. This is going to be really fun. When evil forces are going unchecked on Earth, a principled astronaut makes a split-second decision to try and seek justice in the only place she knows how to, the International Space Station. Wally Beckwith is a model astronaut. She graduated at the top of her class from the Naval Academy, had a successful career flying fighter jets, and has spent over 300 days in space. So when she refuses to leave her post at the International Space Station following an accident that forces her fellow astronauts to evacuate, her American and Russian colleagues are mystified. For Wally, the matter at hand feels all too clear and too terrifying for her to be worried about ruining her career. She is stuck in a race against time to save a part of the world it seems has been forgotten, and also the life of the person she loves the most. Her niece is a healthcare provider for indigenous people in the Amazon jungle who are being literally burnt out of their homes by paramilitary forces supported by the Brazilian president, who is trying to expand cattle grazing pasture lands into the rainforest. Will the U.S. president have the U.S. military intervene? Wally will go to any means necessary, using the only method she has to accomplish what she knows is right. This is edge of your seat pacing, and the clock is always ticking as lines of communication are manipulated, violence erupts, fire explodes in the Brazilian jungle, and children are put in mortal danger. As our lone astronaut makes her play for justice, will she make it back to Earth safely?
Next is A Slow Fire Burning, the scorching new thriller from the best-selling author of The Girl on the Train. It's a gripping, twisting story of deceit, murder, and revenge. When a young man is found gruesomely murdered in a London houseboat, it triggers questions about three women who knew him. Laura is the troubled one-night stand, last seen in the victim's home. Carla is his grief-stricken aunt, already mourning the recent death of another family member. And Miriam is the nosy neighbor who is clearly keeping secrets from the police. They're three women with separate connections to the victim, three women who are, for different reasons, simmering with resentment, and who are, whether they know it or not, burning to right the wrongs that have been done to them. Because when it comes to revenge, even good people can be capable of terrible deeds. How far might any of them go to find peace? How long can secrets smolder before they explode into flame? The glowing reviews are already coming in for this book. Booklist gave it a star and said, "This book puts Hawkins on par with the supreme Ruth Rendell." And the New York Times declares, "Only a clairvoyant could anticipate the book's ending." And as all of my colleagues know, I always reserve judgment on thrillers until the very, very end. I like hinge it on the ending. So a quote like that is like gold to me to sell me on a thriller. So it's really, really exciting.
Next up is another author I don't think needs introduction, Robert Ludlum, and this is The Foreign Treachery. I know that everyone is very familiar with this series, so to have a new installment this fall is going to keep you even busier than we've already been keeping you. The world's most ruthlessly efficient assassin, Jason Bourne, is facing the one force he can't defeat, his own past, in the latest thrilling entry in Robert Ludlum's New York Times bestselling series. 3 years ago, Jason Bourne embarked on a mission in Estonia with his partner and lover, a fiery Treadstone agent codenamed Nova. Their job was to rescue a Russian double agent who'd been smuggled out of St. Petersburg in the midst of an FSB manhunt. They failed. The Russian died at the hands of a shadowy assassin known only by the nickname Lenin. Now everything has changed for Bourne. Nova is gone, killed in a mass shooting in Las Vegas. Bourne is a lone operative working in the shadows for Treadstone, and when he's called in for a new mission in London to prevent another assassin mastermind by Lenin. But nothing about this mission is what it seems. As Bourne engages in a cat-and-mouse game with Lenin across the British countryside, he discovers that everything he thought he knew about the past was a lie. And with the body count rising, he comes to an inevitable conclusion. some secrets should stay buried.
Next is You Can Run, a terrifying new thriller and fast-paced domestic drama from the New York Times bestselling author of Need to Know. We have your son. It's the call that's every parent's nightmare. And for CIA analyst Jill Bailey, it's the call that changes everything, that forces her to do something she never thought she would. Alex Charles is a hard-hitting journalist who begins to investigate an anonymous tip, an explosive claim about the CIA's hottest news source. This tip and his determination to find the truth leads him to Jill, who would rather remain hidden. But as the two begin to work together, they uncover a vast conspiracy that will force them to confront their loyalty to both family and country. It's an edge-of-your-seat thriller that will have you asking, what would you do to save the ones you love? You Can Run is for the many fans of Karen Cleveland that she garnered with Need to Know, as well as fans of the TV series The Americans. But it's also a book for book clubs who will appreciate all of the complicated moral issues and dilemmas that these characters face. And you may remember that Karen knows of what she writes. She worked for 8 years in the CIA on Russia and counterterrorism, and she offers readers an intimate insider's look at government intelligence. And last but not least, there's a major film in the works for Need to Know. It was scooped up by Universal Studios, and Charlize Theron is slated to star and produce. And while there's no date yet, that will surely garner many, many more fans for her. And next for me is The Survivors. This thrillingly fast-paced narrative with the literary verve of atonement and the dinner. In the wake of their mother's death, 3 estranged brothers returned to a lakeside cottage where more than 2 decades before, an unspeakable accident altered their family forever. Nils is the oldest, and he couldn't escape this suffocating home soon enough. Pierre, the youngest, was easily bullied and quick to lash out. And then there's Benjamin, who was always on the lookout for triggers and trapdoors in this volatile home where the children were left to fend for themselves. But as the years have unfolded, Benjamin has grown increasingly untethered from reality. And among the brothers, a dangerous current now vibrates. What really happened that summer day when everything was blown to pieces? There's a sense of dread on every page. This is dark and twisty and told in 2 simultaneous narratives. The past is told chronologically, moving toward the shocking event that shattered the family, and the present narrative moves backwards over an explosive 24 hours. And I think the best quote I've heard so far about this book comes from a colleague. Not since Life of Pi have I found myself so poleaxed by a narrative reveal. I'm still not over it. I loved Life of Pi. I was poleaxed by that reveal. So this should be an amazing, amazing read.
Wow, that's a pretty good.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, the end of Life of Pi still haunts me, I think.
Absolutely.
The last up on our thriller slides is the first in a trilogy, a genre-bending trilogy. With that is a little sci-fi, a little fiction, crime mystery, and we think you're going to really enjoy it. It's also a little bit of a police procedural. So if you liked the Ben Winters Last Policeman series, which I adored, and talk about the end of something never escaping me, this is a new trilogy for you. And it's the first, like I said, in the Water City trilogy. In a future of underwater cities, artificially extended lifespans, and a wealth gap that has outlived a near apocalypse, a world-weary detective investigates the murder of the enigmatic scientist who once saved the world. The year is 2142. Earth is 40 years past a near collision with an asteroid, and Akira Kimura is the scientist responsible for eliminating the threat. He's achieved heights of celebrity approaching deification, but now Akira is being threatened. So after years without contact, she reaches out to her former head of security, who has since become a police detective. When he arrives at her deep sea home and finds Akira methodically dismembered, this detective will risk everything, his career, his family, even his own life, and delve back into his shared past with Akira to find her killer. With a rich cinematic voice and a burning cynicism, Midnight Water City is both a thriller, neo-noir procedural, and a stunning exploration of research, class, climate change, the cult of personality, and the dark sacrifices we are willing to make in the name of progress. So there you go.
I was just going to chime in to say that I forgot to mention, but Paula Hawkins was also one of the authors who spoke at Day of Dialogue. So if you didn't get a chance to see her, pop in for that too. I love listening to these authors of thrillers and murder mysteries talk because she was talking about how she was walking by houseboats one day and just thought, well, that would be a good place to hide a body. And I always think about how also like it would be amazing to be able to look into a thriller writer's like Google history of what they searched, like arsenic and what does it do? But so take a look at that too.
All right, and now June is also Audiobook Month, so I just wanted to highlight a few ways that how you can celebrate Audiobook Month with us. One way is to share on socials. We'll be posting a lot of great resources this month, along with every other month, but this month is special. So for instance, we've been posting a few fun pictures about doing different activities while you listen to audiobooks. So for instance, our colleague Jen made a dinosaur cake with her son for his birthday. So she was listening to an audiobook while baking this cake. So if you want to reshare, you can talk about which posts, what activities you like to do while you listen to audiobooks. So make sure you tag us at PRH Library and use the hashtag #LoveAudiobooks. Another way is just to promote audiobooks to your patrons. Audiobooks are such a great, diverse format that you can use to engage patrons of all kind, young and old. I personally love the audiobook format. I love to multitask, so it's a great way for me to be able to listen to the latest. I just downloaded the Malibu Rising, so that will be on my list. But check out the booksontap.com website for blogs, collections, and different resources you can find about how to promote audiobooks to your patrons. Along with that, you can download the Volumes app. Librarians have special access to download the Volumes app. That's a PRH curated app for audiobooks from our entire collection. And this will be in the wrap up as well. So there's a link where you can sign up to get access for a special selection each month for books for review. And also you can encourage young patrons to download titles from Synced, which is a free summer audiobook program for teens 13 and up, and also adults as well. I'm also signed up. But Synced basically it started April 29th and it ends August 4th, but it gives participants 2 thematically paired audiobooks a week. So Listening Library will be having 2 audiobooks at the end of June and also in the beginning of July. So stay tuned for updates on those. And you can go to audiobooksync.com to register, and we'll also have information in the wrap up as well. Next, we created this really fun quiz about if you're in a reading slump or a listening slump, and you want to figure out which audiobook should you listen to next, take our quiz, and we have some great suggestions. So this will be in the wrap up as well, or you can follow the tiny URL link below. Now onto some great related kids and teens audiobooks. So first, we're going to start with Some Girls Do by Jennifer Duggan. And this audiobook is narrated by 2 Audiophile Earphones Award winners, Nora Hunter and Bailey Carr. They bring this swoony queer romance to life from the author of Hot Dog Girl. An openly gay track star falls for a closeted bisexual teen beauty queen with a penchant for fixing up old cars. The 2 are drawn to each other and can't deny their growing feelings. But while Morgan, out and proud and determined to have a fresh start, doesn't want to have to keep their budding relationship a secret, Ruby isn't ready to come out yet. With each girl on a different path toward living her truth, can they go the distance together? Download the audiobook and you will find out. Next, in Standout Nonfiction, we have In the Heights, Finding Home, which I am so excited about. I'm a huge Broadway fan. I saw In the Heights when it was on Broadway years ago, and this is the eagerly awaited follow-up to the #1 New York Times bestseller of Hamilton, The Revolution. Lin-Manuel Miranda's new book gives listeners an extraordinary inside look at In the Heights, his breakout Broadway debut, written with Chiara Alegria Hudes and Jeremy Carter. And this will also be a Hollywood blockbuster movie coming out in a few weeks as well, which I'm very excited to see, hopefully in theaters. And like Hamilton, The Revolution, the audiobook offers untold stories, perceptive essays, and the lyrics to Miranda's songs, complete with his funny, heartfelt annotations. And excitingly, America Ferrera has hopped on the narration of this book as well, and she's a huge In the Heights fan. She tweeted about this last week, and she said that she's seen the Broadway show 3 times, and she's so excited to be able to narrate this and share fun behind-the-scenes information. So this will be out June 15th, so get excited, because I am very excited, and it's going to be great. Next, we have Instructions for Dancing from Nicola Yoon, and you might know her from her best-selling novels of Everything, Everything, and The Sun Is Also a Star. So we're happy to announce that she's back with yet another remarkable romance about a girl who swears off of love until she witnesses a couple kiss and is overcome with the vision of how their romance began and how it will end. So this is full of fantastical elements, swoon-worthy moments, and answering all of the hard questions. Jasmine Guillory noted that this book is proof, if anyone needed it, that Nicola Yoon knows how to make you fall in love. It made her smile, laugh, cry, and it made her want to hug everyone she loves. So we're super excited for this, and it's available now. And lastly, we have Diana and the Underworld Odyssey by Aisha Saeed. This series is perfect for fans of Wonder Woman who are looking for something for the young readers in their, looking for the young reader equivalent to a Wonder Woman, and also a splash of Greek mythology interwoven into their superhero tales. So the world's #1 female superhero, Wonder Woman, is back in another breathtaking adventure. This time, Diana will travel to the underworld to take on Hades, but will she make it out alive? We'll see. This is series book #2, but it also can serve as a standalone too because of the nature of this series. Kristen Mercurio is back to voice Diana on yet another one of her adventurous expeditions, and she's a fabulous voiceover actor and actress, so she always brings this character to life in the most powerful and inspiring way. So we're really excited for this as well.
You just had us all swooning over Lin-Manuel.
I know. How can you not? He's amazing. He can do no wrong.
I think that we need to all take the rest of the day off and start reading, because there's a lot of stuff on here that I'm like dying to read.
I know. My TBR list is certainly full.
She is.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us once again for our 26th episode of the Morning Book Buzz. We love chatting with you about the books we're excited about. We're so grateful that you tune in and chat with us. And please feel free anytime to say in the chat or to email us at library@penguinrandomhouse.com if we can help with any of your collection development or reader's advisory needs. And thank you again for tuning in. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
And don't miss our next book buzz on July 7th. We'll have the sign up in the wrap up.
We'll have even more.
Yeah.
Even more.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.